Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckholt dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word, episode number 77. We are doing this on the Memorial Day weekend. It's actually Thursday the 30th. It is just going to be me today. There'll be no guests, no other co-hosts, but I wanted to use this as an opportunity to, one, still have a show every week and put out a stream of consciousness of why we started this, where we're going with the lumber word, and talk a little bit about the market. So let's jump into it first with a little bit of thanks on Memorial Day. First of all, thank you to all the veterans in our industry, all the veterans in this great country, present or gone, but not forgotten. We thank you for your great sacrifice so that we can be here today in this great country, in this great business, and having every opportunity that most people in this world don't have. So I really appreciate that. A couple other people I want to thank. Thank Greg Riley and Matt Beamer for really putting time in every week to do this, thoughts, and preparing for this, and really giving the industry, the lumber industry, information that I would say that we do not get. And also David Militello, who's my producer. Dave and I got together when he was in Central America, and he produced it from there. Now he's back in the States, does a great job, and it's why we sound, I think, pretty good on the microphones. So again, let's talk a little bit about the market, and then I'll go into that stream of consciousness, and we'll talk a little bit about why we started this, where it's going, and some exciting things coming our way. Not much has changed, although in this industry, every day something's different. Since the last time we did this show last week, cash seems to still be adjusting, although, as we say, I think it's found the bottom in most species. If you're looking at panels and OSB, we had a nice little uptick in that the last few weeks. Southern pine seems to have found somewhat of a grounding, and same with U.S. species. European spruce, the tough one there, we're noticing less coming over. There's still some there. It is regularly coming over to the docks, but I think we're at a point in prices right now with a lot of the Europeans out there are really weighing some tough decisions, what they want to ship, how much, where they want to go to with it. So that'll be interesting to kind of keep a hold of. The one interesting thing, and I'll quit saying interesting since I said it 75 times here. The one thing that I see and that we've seen is still the market being a premium to the cash market. When I say that, I mean the CME futures being a premium to the cash market. The market is in contango still in the futures, and contango isn't a drink that you had in college in one of those room parties and couldn't remember anything. It's just where the forward price of a market is higher each contract. It normally is a bullish signal because people feel lumber will be worth more in the future than it is today. With that said, the cash market, I am going to say right around here is probably in the 480 to 490 market in Western spruce, which means that we're probably somewhere around, $20 away from some type of conversion, and maybe a little give or take a little bit on the Eastern spruce. And I honestly didn't look at the coastal hem fir before we started talking about this, which is a deliverable contract also. What that's allowed people to do is, with wood on the ground, is continue to roll every month and pick up that extra premium at the futures that are farther out. Looking at the commitment of traders report, it seems like some of the industry, who I'm talking about, you people out there that are still spec long, they are still fighting the shorts. They have been for the short funds who everybody felt had to come out for some reason. I don't know why they felt that, but it doesn't seem to be the case. And the market continues to leak lower. So we'll see what happens. I feel that this is just my opinion, those industry longs probably going to have to throw in the towel at some point. And maybe that's when we'll see more of a turn in the market. So I talked about containment or contango. Let's talk a little bit about backwardation. That is also known as the dance Michael Jackson did in the video Thriller. Basically, that's where contracts are less expensive the farther out you go, and it's more of a bearish setup. Haven't seen that for a bit. So, what do we think the market will do, or how is this going to go down? Again, this is all speculation, but my guess is at this point, we are trying to find a bottom in the market. I'm a little surprised there haven't been any more curtailment announcements, but that just, as much as I hate this term, is what it is. You know, a lot of these things Greg and I were talking about, Matt and I were talking about over the last few weeks, and Greg really summarized this good when we were chatting over the weekend. You know, I think what we're going to see is probably still some weakness going into mid-June here. Probably see the futures, the CME side of things approach 500 or potentially lower. Cash probably staying somewhere where it's at and hopefully converge on there. I would say sometime about mid-June, and again, the old joke in the industry, I'm strapping the surgical mask on here. We're probably going to see some announcements in mid-June, late June, with the Eastern mills announcing their normal summer shutdowns. My guess is some of those will be extended more than normal. We may see that out west also. So, what are we seeing right now? What we're starting to see is customers looking at asking about long-term business. Most customers are buying day to day. Orders are a lot harder to come by. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the market's better every day, like some people say. That it's just the market is kind of doing what it does in this situation. There's people trying to operate off of inventory sitting around them. It means when there's a lot of wholesale wood and mill people that reload, with wood sitting on the ground in a market like this, there's no urgency to have to buy a whole bunch of stuff when you can get it tomorrow at a lower price. So customers right now are looking at buying and holding. What do I mean by that? When you get inquiry over from multiple people looking at extended shipment, looking for July, August, September, October, wanting you to put prices on it, what they're really looking right now, because the forward market is in a contango. So if you do the traditional forward pricing on a lot of items, especially the undervalued items, you are looking at buying lumber out from here at probably premiums of $50 to $100 per thousand board feet. That's if you use the real method of buying the futures and selling the different basis items against it to customers. All right. So what are they doing on that? People are looking at that and they're going to compare that to what it costs to actually buy the material, put it on the ground, pay interest for it, and whatever other costs that they have associated with that. And then they'll look at the forward price and make a decision. So what do they do with that? They either decide to buy or hold, or they go out and ask somebody to put forward numbers on it. And there is always somebody willing to put a cheaper number on things. I don't think personally we're at a point in the market anybody should be taking items in the future short, but that's my own opinion. The other option is don't do anything and just sit and continue to do what you're doing, buying as you need things. The feeling here is the market will probably be higher in lumber in August than it is today. I'm not sure exactly the path we're going to take or the unknown unknowns or the announcements that are going to happen or what's going to happen in economics, in production and supply and demand, but something will change to turn it around is what we think. Some of the notable things that I'm seeing in the market, I'm hearing people talk about this is one of the hardest markets that they've seen in 3 to 4 years. So if you're new to this industry, when I say new in the last 3 to 4 years, you basically experienced 3 of the best years back to back, I would arguably say ever in the industry. Sometimes 10 years strung together weren't as good as the past 3 years we've had. What is that doing? That's creating a lot of uncomfortability for new people in the industry. People that were used to making X are not making that, have to work a lot harder. It's not just pick up the phone and move orders. Inventory that you put on the ground that you thought was going to be worth more is not worth more. If people lifted their hedges earlier, they're probably struggling with that. We all probably have more inventory on the ground now than our days of sales normally are. So there's pressure. And I'm noticing that with a lot of the people I talk to. I can hear it in their voices. Things are a lot tougher. It's a lot harder. I've seen people move around the industry, moving from more speculative trading jobs to more jobs with less speculation in it. Things are harder. So what do you do? What do you do if you're, let's say, a builder? If you're a builder, you go out and realize that these numbers are as low as they've been in a long time. And what I'm talking about is business that you have already locked in. I'm not talking about speculative business here. If you're a builder, I don't care if you're building one house or 5,000 houses over the next few months. You want to go out and try to potentially find out what it costs to lock in your price at close to today's numbers as possible. I know I said that the forward price won't allow you to do that, but people are willing to do things, and I don't know why sometimes, but they will. So go out and ask people to give you a number and ask them to show you what their curve is in the cash market. Ask them what they'll price you in today's market for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Ask them to do the work. I don't recommend going short here long term for people. Prices are just down to the point where most of them are below or at the cost of production. That can't last forever. If you're a retailer, you just figure out what you have sold and look at the options you have to lock it in with your builders and why. Important to tell them and give them numbers of where we're at in the market and explain to them in detail why they should do things. Sometimes that's the most important thing. If you explain to people why it is important to do things. If you're a wholesaler right now, just keep plodding along, selling the best you can every day. If you're hedged, great. If you're not, probably a good idea to keep selling and stay away from the buying bong. I had one comment from a person that I talked to last week that said it's really tough in this industry if you're on hedge because everything you buy 30 days from now is the same price or less than you bought it. That is not a recipe to make much money doing that. So you have to figure out what your strategy is going forward and how you're going to make money in this market and hold on till it actually does turn and try not to make any mistakes in the interim. So let's talk a little bit about this podcast, The Lumber Word. Why did we start it? We started it as a way to talk about the market. We were doing it anyway with each other. It's a way to formulate ideas, opinions, challenge each other. And we started it because we're all industry veterans. I personally had great a great education in this industry and paid a lot of tuition through, being in a retail yard, then being a large distributor and a distribution wholesaler. One of the founders of my company helped start the lumber futures contract in 1969. So I really had a great opportunity learning about every aspect of the business. After that, I went to another great trading company out of New York, learned some things there, and then ended up at for a large, one of the second largest companies in the United States, private companies, doing swaps and derivatives and learning about that. Then doing a startup materials exchange in the lumber business, trying to bring a little technology to this antiquated industry. That's where some of the tuition comes from. Then I was able to connect back up with my former boss, who I now call partner, Greg Riley. And it's amazing how much when you come back together and can work with somebody that you have a lot of respect for and have a lot of fun with, like we're doing great things now. And then one of the reasons for this podcast, right? We also started it because we felt that the industry needs more information. So I've had people in this industry basically tell me, don't give people information because it closes the bid-ask spread. What does that mean? When you're in an industry that is as old school as ours, yes, I said old school as ours, where fax machines and cell phones were the most recent technology, yes, there is some technology out there, but millions to billions of dollars worth of lumber still get traded with people sitting on trading floors talking to people on a phone. There's not many industries like that. Why are there so many people want to be in the industry? Because the bid-ask spread is wide. What does that mean? You look at the bid, hold out your left hand and say that's the bid. Look at the right, that's the ask. the offer, what you can sell it for. Widen your hands all the way out, and in between is where the profit is. There's still really good profit in this industry. When you give people transparency and information and you move your hands closer together, you close the bid-ask spread. So we've had a lot of people tell us we're giving away too much information, but what I've learned through being at companies and through creative destruction is you need to educate everybody and show everybody what you're doing and create value so the next best thing can come along. So who do we service? Well, we started out just talking to traders and speaking the language of the industry, dollars per thousand, bid, ask, offer, 1,000 board feet and so forth. And that's great. And what we discovered was everybody outside of the industry, investors, traders at hedge funds, retailers, home builders wanted to learn more about it and have us decipher that language. So we service everybody in the supply chain or that just wants to learn about lumber or trade lumber. We discovered that education and educating people and talking about something like this every day is amazing. People love to hear about it. And people call us every day and ask us questions. So how are we going to grow it? Well, certain things are going to happen. We've had some great guests on this show, and they've really, really made it valuable for us. We've got an event coming up in Vancouver with Russ Taylor, the Global Wood Summit, that will be in Vancouver, BC on October 29th to 30th, where we're going to hold a live podcast. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody's heard Russ on the show. He brings a lot of details to it, and it's wonderful. We're also going to have advertising in sponsors. You have to have that as your podcast grows. I've got a few things that are coming through over the next few months, and it's going to be amazing to talk about. We're excited about it. This little show that started out just talking and having fun is growing in the industry. We're going to make a few format changes and try to fit, split a few things up. I know everybody loves Marry Date Dump to look at the different items. We're going to still do that, maybe not as much, and we're going to add some things for a lot more people, more guests, more economists. We're going to probably add more shows in the future. When I say more shows, not just the lumber word, we may add some other ones. Talk about more species. We're going to add panels in here. Another one that I really love, we're going to talk about more overvalued and undervalued items with more specifics as we do more of the analysis on them. Speaking in the terms of the trade that I talked about, we're going to help, as I said, people that may not understand that, educate them a little bit more. And what that will take is people in the industry, when we stop and pause and explain something, being willing to sit and wait and listen through while we explain it to people that may not understand it. What that does is it grows the podcast and it's more inclusive to everybody listening. So what we need is more feedback. Right now, if you want to send feedback to the show, we're in the process of building a website out. You can send it to Ashley at sitkainc.com. That's ASHLEY at SITKAINC.com. Send it to me. We'll include questions in the show. We'll add content if you want to. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. If you tell us what you don't like, I'm probably not going to listen to it anyway. But if it makes you feel better, go ahead and do it. So in conclusion, the lumber word has been a great ride so far. We thank all of our listeners, and it's been amazing. Just the things that have transpired over the last few weeks to months, we're going to have the opportunity to grow this show a lot more and add more valuable content for everybody listening. And what we really believe is that when you add that value to everybody in the supply chain, it makes everybody in the supply chain better. So again, thank you, all of you listeners. We wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you to everybody I mentioned at the beginning of this. And we look forward to all getting back together as the team with our new guest next week. And until then, thanks for everything. And make sure you tell somebody about the lumber word. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.